So this coming weekend is the Speed Promotions race at National Trail Raceway. It's basically the event that they used to call No Prep Kings. Billy and Tommy both intend to run Little Gangsters, the 530 index class, with the Falcon and the S10. And I may run my Malibu in the 70 index class as well. But we've got quite a bit of work to get done in the shop before this weekend. Tuesday afternoon, we were busy putting the cow tracks on Bob's Nova. And of course, we were trying to keep Wyatt entertained. Every time he comes into the shop, he has a little routine of certain things that he likes to do.
Oh, that's turn.
Yeah. Have to turn the wheel, Grandma. Oh, these wheels, they're not Hot Boys. They don't spin very easy. We got to get the Hot Boys put on there, buddy. We don't have them on there yet. While we were working on Bob's Nova out in the shop, I had company stopping by to drop off a small block Chevy that he would like to have dynoed up at the machine shop. It happens to belong to John Sears, the tech director for this weekend at Trails. Well, look who it is.
Well, you know, sometimes a man's got to hit the road when he's got to hit the road, and that's what I'm doing.
What are you doing? You coming up here to tech cars this weekend at Trails?
I am. I'm going to be at Trails for the Speed Promotions deal. And,
Yeah.
You know, they got the little gangsters in there. And
Right.
some big tire stuff, and you know how it is. We do tech and everything else, but I got a little thing in the back of the bed of the trailer here, and I figured I'd throw my hat in the ring with y'all and run my stuff across the same dyno, and let's see what kind of stuff we got going on here.
All right, well, let's check it out. So what is this?
So this is a 23 degree. It's got a set of Edelbrock Victor heads on it. It's about 12.5 to 1, low 700 solid roller.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got a Super Victor from Wilson on it, belt drive, a lot of good components in the bottom end and everything else like that. And about 10-12 years ago, I went like 519, 520 at 3,100 pounds in Ultra Street trim.
Nice.
So I saw you guys running all these 23 degree units across the dyno there, and I'm like, the Angry Peanut would like to join in all the fun.
John was intrigued by the dyno results of Bob's 415 small block Chevy with the cylinder heads that he got from Eric Weingartner. And knowing what this engine went at 3,100 pounds has John interested to see what this engine makes on Bob's dyno. Anyway, once we got his engine unloaded out of the truck and set safely in the garage, me, Billy, Kenny, and John all decided to get the street cars out and run down to the lake for some lunch. John and I took the Malibu while Kenny and Billy followed behind us in the Corvette that Billy's doing a giveaway on his website. All the details are available on streetracingchannel.com. Don't worry, if you don't win the Corvette, you can always enter to come hang out with us and maybe even drive down to Buckeye Lake with us in the street cars to go to dinner at Papa Boo's, which is where we took John Sears Tuesday afternoon. All the details for that are available on my website, theoldmansgarage.shop. I've mentioned in the last few videos I've been working on a couple of cruise routes as well as a handful of destinations I'd like to add to the route. I figure once we draw the winner, we'll let them pick and choose where they'd like to go and who they'd like to see. Of course, no matter what we do, it's going to be weather dependent. But regardless, I'm sure there's plenty to do and plenty to see while you're here. So don't forget to get entered before it's too late. Well, you taking off?
I am. I'm going to head out. I got a date with a hotel room and a computer for a little while. Some work done. And then probably head to Lonnie's.
Yeah, you're going to go down to Lonnie's tomorrow. You're going to bring me my transmission back.
Yes, sir. We're going to pick up one and drop one off. That's kind of how we do things.
Well, thanks, John. I appreciate you.
Not a problem. I appreciate everything, Bill.
All right, everybody, it's Wednesday. I just got a text alert that my throttle cable was delivered, so we'll go try and find that. I got a text message a little bit ago from John. He's just picked up the transmission for the Biscayne down at Lonnie's, and he's on his way here. And also, I want to go in and check, see how the kids are doing. They got the cow tracks put on Bob's car. It wasn't hard to find my new throttle cable from Motion Raceworks. I almost fell over it when I went in to check on the Nova. Billy and Kenny have the cow track bars installed, but they're not adjusted yet. I figure we'll work on that this afternoon once we put the wheels and tires back on. For right now, I want to switch gears and try and get this Motion Raceworks throttle cable installed on my Malibu. When I called and talked to Doug Cook about these cables, I told him I needed two of them. One for my Malibu and one for the Monte Carlo. True to his word, Doug had them shipped out immediately, along with some Motion decals and a sucker, all of which are made here in the United States. Shout out to Dougie Fresh. He sent me two of them. One's for the Malibu and one's for the Monte Carlo, because I'm sure the Monte Carlo is going to need one too. Because both these cars were V6 cars. This one was a 3.3 Chevy V6, and the Monte Carlo was a Buick 3.8 V6. V6s are so short that the carburetors set back pretty close to the firewall, so the throttle cables, they didn't need to be very long. And so this throttle cable has always been pretty short because of that. And then when you put that tall trick flow intake and a nitrous kit on top of it, it gets short in a hurry. So it's pulled taut all the time. And then when you launch this thing and it, the frame rails twist a little bit, it really pulls that cable tight. And you can see where it has stretched it, and it's kind of pulling apart right here. I think this throttle cable has been causing me grief for quite a while. As you can see, it's been tugged on pretty hard. While Kenny and I were busy working on the Malibu in the back shop, Don Sears was backing his dually up to the front garage to unload my 204R for the Biscayne. Huge shout out to both John and Lonnie for helping me get this thing taken care of. Thank you for dropping that transmission off for me.
Not a problem, man. Anything I can do to help, you just let me know.
All right, buddy.
All right,
Thank
take
you.
care.
Once we got that 204R put away, we got back to work in the back shop putting this throttle cable on the Malibu. Although the cable can be cut to whatever length you want, we left the cable the original length and looped it around the master cylinder to make sure the cable has plenty of slack. Once we had it installed and adjusted, it was finally time to take the car up the road and test the nitrous kit to see if everything works. I fired up the car and let the engine warm up and turned the bottle heater on to bring the bottle pressure up to about 950 psi. The higher the bottle pressure, the harder the nitrous kit will hit. And when I kick this thing wide open, I want there to be no question whether the kit is working or not. Alright, so we're going to go down and make a test hit on the test spot with the first stage turned on, and if it engages the nitrous, it's fixed. If it doesn't engage the nitrous, we still got a problem. Let's go up here and make it right, and I'll roll into it on motor, just see how it feels. This is on motor. Oh yeah. Wow. That is much improved. Definitely runs better. Now that we're getting wide open throttle, the car makes much more power even just on motor. But the real question is, will it pull the throttle wide open when I launch the car from a dead stop? It definitely hits. It won't hook on this one. Not today. The pavement's too warm. It feels like it's stuck to the tire.
It is. It's peeling up the asphalt.
Well, at least we know that it works. Seems like it's got a hell of a lot more power now.
Yeah, and it's instant.
It's instant, yeah. Well, suffice to say, the Malibu is back. I have not felt that car run that strong, even on motor, in a long time. Maybe ever. I don't know. It's hard to tell how long we've been fighting this problem, but at least now we know it's fixed. All right, everybody, it is Thursday, and I had a doctor's appointment this morning, and my handler is following me. She always goes to my doctor's appointments because I don't know what the hell medications I'm taking and what I'm not. And they always ask all these questions that I don't have answers to. So anyway, Vicky's following me, and we're going to take Bob's Nova up to the machine shop and drop it off because we're pretty much done with it for right now. I've got some work I need to get done on the Biscayne, and I'm kind of out of room. So we're going to take Bob's Nova up to him, let him see it, let him drive it for the first time. And then I think this afternoon I may take the Malibu down to Edgewater to test. That's up in the air right now. It just depends on how everything goes this afternoon. But here we go. We're headed to Bob's, and we're going to let him see the car and drive it for the first time since we did the drivetrain swap. Now, as some of you know, Bob's car has 24,000 original miles, and we removed the original 307, turbo 350, and 308 geared 10-bolt rear end and replaced them with the 400 small block and a 700 R4 as well as a strange 9-inch rear end with 410 gears and a posi unit. From a performance standpoint, the stock drivetrain was a dud. And although my stock bottom end 400 with a set of Edelbrock heads and a mild RV cam isn't going to set the world on fire, it probably makes 3 times the power the stock 307 did. And now that the car has a 4-speed automatic transmission and a 410 posi rear end, it's a lot more fun to drive. Now you got a hot rod to ride around.
I got a hot rod. You ride around there?
My old 400 small block will tide Bob over until he gets his 427 finished. But between now and then, Bob's got something to cruise around with and enjoy. Should be fast enough and consistent enough to be able to run sportsman bracket events with it if he so chooses. Anyway, on our way home, Vicky wanted to stop at Watts in Utica to get some lunch and stock up on grandma items, like cookies for Mr. Pookie. We also stopped to run her El Camino through the car wash to try and get it cleaned up a little bit before the weekend. If the weather holds out, we'll probably be using the El Camino to run back and forth from the house to the track to run errands and let the dogs out. Other than getting it cleaned up, I also wanted to get an oil change done on it, fix a slight header leak, and repair the tailpipe hanger on the driver's side that's been broken for about a week. With as many cars as we've got around here, it's hard to keep track of everything and keep everything running. And it's evidently difficult to keep track of keeping the belts up to date. So evidently you got the hint.
Yeah, so when you guys dropped off that motor the other day, I think John came in here and he left my door open and my belts flapped out. And he gave me a subtle hint.
Eventually, we got all the cars ready to take down to the track. And some of the big name guys were already there unloading and setting up their pit. And somehow we even managed to get our names on a cone. For the weekend, we're going to be camped out right next to John Sears' tech trail. And I'll have the Malibu down there as soon as I get done filling it up with fuel for the weekend. I drove it down to the Speedway station in Hebron to top it off in an attempt to add weight to the back of the car, not only for traction, but to also slow the car down, since it typically runs faster than 7 flat, even without full throttle. So ironically, we now have wide open throttle on the Malibu, however, I can't use it. They're going to run 7.0 index here this weekend, and I can run 7.0 index probably on 2-barrel, so we'll probably have to just disconnect the secondaries on the carburetor and run it on the primaries only to slow it down to 7 flat. However, I still have my nitrous kit on the button if I need it for finish line driving. All right, everybody, it's Saturday and we skipped Friday. Friday was a little difficult for me. I had a package that was supposed to be delivered yesterday by FedEx, and it required a signature. So I stayed at the house all day waiting on the package to be delivered, and FedEx never came to the house, never attempted to come to the house. They just said that they tried and I wasn't home, which I was definitely home. So anyway, that made me late to get down here to the track, and by the time I got here, they were not accepting any more entries into 7.0 index. So I didn't race yesterday. Billy and Tommy raced Little Gangsters last night, and Billy raced in 7.0. You'll get to see all that. That was pretty interesting. The kids did really good. You'll see that on their channel. But today, I'm going to go up and make a test hit. They're going to allow us to make one test hit in 7.0. We don't get any time slips, but I've got a draggy from one of the kids' cars in the Malibu. So I've got the secondaries disconnected. So we're going to run it on a 2-barrel and short shift it and see how close I can get this thing to run 7 flat. Now in the past, I've done this before where I've disconnected the secondaries to slow the car down about half a second. Unfortunately, we're only going to get one chance to make a test hit, and at this point there's question in my mind whether my test hit will be worth making. I was the next car out to the burnout box, and this little S10 out there just scattered the transmission everywhere, so they're cleaning it up. But I'm going to try and get this thing as close to 7.0 as I can. I'm hoping for about a 7.10 pass. That'll give me a little room to use some nitrous at the finish line to finish line drive. But it's kind of a shot in the dark. I'm only going to get one shot at it, and this transmission fluid everywhere is not good. And I'm the next one down. Now, typically at the no prep events that we're accustomed to, a mess like this usually equals a 1-lane racetrack. But I've got to hand it to the staff at Trails. They did an excellent job keeping both lanes even. Now, since we replaced the throttle cable, I'm kind of shooting in the dark here. I don't really know what the car's going to run, but disconnecting the secondary slowed it down way too much. Okay, so they called us up for first round. I ran home and got the linkage and hooked the secondaries back up on the carburetor, because on 2-barrel before, it really didn't kill this car this much, but on this motor, you unhook the 2-barrel and it murders it. So I was flying blind going into first round, but thankfully my opponent didn't show up. I have no idea what happened, but I got a competition bye first round, which was a good thing, because not only am I trying to dial the car in for the ET of the class, I'm also trying to figure out how to cut a light on a 4/10 Pro tree. Since we don't get time slips, what I'm looking for is the top bulb to go out before the green comes on, and the second bulb from the top of the tree to go out exactly the same time as the green comes on, or just a fraction of a second after. And clearly my first round reaction time was not good enough. So when I went up for the next round of competition, I decided I was going to take a chance and try and guess the tree. Cutting a good reaction time is incredibly important, because it can give you a major advantage and a head start against your competition. As you can see here, the risk was worth the reward. My reaction time advantage put me 3 cars ahead of my competition, which allowed me to get to the finish line first without going faster than the 7 flat index. In the final round, I bumped the car in carefully into the stage beams and took a shot at the tree again, but this time it didn't work out in my favor. If the second bulb down from the top of the tree goes out before the green comes on, the red comes on shortly thereafter. And unfortunately, once that happens, nothing good happens in your lane for the rest of the day. So that ended my weekend down at Trails for the Speed Promotions race, and I went home considering my options to improve my performance and to be able to cut consistent reaction times without guessing the tree. All right, so we're back. I had a great time at the track this weekend. It was unfortunate that the weather forecast all week called for a complete and total rain out. And in fact, it rained everywhere in Ohio, but at National Trails. I couldn't believe that, but it rained at Cincinnati, it rained up north. It rained pretty much everywhere, but it barely rained at all at Trails. So it was kind of a perfect storm where, you know, the attendance wasn't very good. And even though there weren't any other races that you could have gone to, it still suffered. You know, people don't want to spend that kind of money to go and get rained out. And so it is what it is. But we had a great time. We were treated really well. The event was run very efficiently. I really look forward to going to Bowling Green next weekend, because Tommy and Billy are both doing very well in this points series that they put together for Little Gangsters. I think Tommy's leading it right now. So we're all going to Bowling Green next weekend. So if you want to come see us and all the guys from the television show, we're all going to be down at Bowling Green. And I'll probably take the Malibu with me and run 7.0 index again. Somebody mentioned that they had a daily driver shootout, but I don't know. I guess I missed that. I'll have to look into that. But I'll probably run this thing in 7.0 index again. Obviously, cutting a light on a 4/10 Pro tree off the foot brake in a 3,800-pound car is relatively difficult. But regardless, I'm taking the car with me. Like, we're all going down there as a family, and I want to have fun and enjoy it. And I'd like to be able to cruise the car around a little bit down there. I might even go visit my friends at ATM, because they're in Bowling Green. Anyway, I had a great time. The kids had a great time. I think everybody had a great time. But I think what I'm going to do moving forward is probably go a different direction with the transmission in the Malibu. Now, keep in mind, I like the 700R4. I love the 700R4 actually, because it is fully automatic. I just put the transmission in drive or overdrive and it shifts itself. I don't have to worry about downshifting at traffic lights or stop signs or anything like that. So that part of it is very nice. If you're just out cruising around and you're wanting to just enjoy the car on a Sunday drive, it's great. But there are no trans brakes available for a 700R4 that I'm aware of. I could be wrong, but I think ultimately what I should do is go ahead and put a 4L80E in the car. That will open up opportunities for me to race this thing if I want. Unfortunately, the 4L80E will drop the E. It will not have an electronic valve body in it, because it's against my religion. I just don't want nothing to do with electronic controllers in my car. I just don't want it. So I'll put a manual valve body in it with a trans brake. I've been talking to Lonnie down at Extreme Automatics, and he's willing to help me with a 4L80E to put in this. Now I'm going to have to change a lot. I'm going to have to do something about the speedometer. That's one thing. I'll probably have to buy one of those GPS speedometer drive boxes, because none of the 4L80Es ever had a mechanical speedometer. They were all electronic. I'll have to change the cross member. Obviously, I'll have to have another converter. I'll get a hold of Bubba Rafferty up at Perfect Converter and see if he can't get me a converter built for 4L80E for this combination. However, this is not the engine that's going to stay in this car. This is Tommy's engine. It's supposed to go in his S10. I'm working on a new engine for the Malibu. I think I'm going to go back to my original hydraulic roller, because that engine was just, it was so much easier and more convenient to drive, because you could lock the converter on the interstate and it wouldn't buck. You know, the camshaft was intended for a drag and drive application, whereas this is more of a radical solid roller race only cam. It doesn't do as well on the street, although it sounds awesome. I love how it sounds, and it does run good. It does not 60 and 330 anywhere near like my hydraulic roller cam engine did. Now, when you turn the nitrous on, it doesn't matter, but it also hooks pretty decent on the street. Like if you're street racing this car, it works pretty well because it won't get ahead of the tire. It leaves pretty soft, and then you can just roll the nitrous in, and it works good that way. So there's good and bad points to this particular engine and this particular car. Although I never intended for this to be a race car, right? I never intended for it to be that. It was just supposed to be my daily driver. You know, I wanted to take it to Sick Week last year, so I had to put a 6-point roll bar in it. And right now, it's really the only thing I have to make content with for racing until I get my Monte Carlo done. And yes, the Monte Carlo is still sitting in here. The Monte is waiting on Jason and Brad down at 10 Soldiers to have time to work on it. It doesn't really make sense for me to plumb and wire the car until the chassis work's done, because the wiring and the plumbing all has to be worked around and tied to the chassis and the new roll bars. And I think I'm going to do a 25.3 in that car, because I think it's going to be much faster than 850. Although I don't really want a funny car cage in it. That's what it's going to have, because I don't want the car to be limited by the roll bar. I would like for the car to be able to go however fast it can go. I'm not going to be here forever. Eventually that car is going to be left to somebody else, and I want the car to be safe for whoever ends up in it down the road. So anyway, back to the Malibu. I think what we're going to do is put a 4L80E in it, and that should allow me to be able to competitively compete with the car in some of these classes, like 7.0 index or 650 index down at Cincy Street Nights, because right now, currently, there's no way to compete in any of these index classes, honestly, foot braking against trans brake cars. So it is what it is. You know, I can always put it back to a $700 later if I decide to, but I think for right now, that's probably the direction I'm going to go. I just wanted everyone to understand exactly what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And it's not necessarily something that's going to be permanent, but probably will. I don't know. I guess it just depends on how aggravated I get shifting it every time I stop at a stop sign or a traffic light. Anyway, that's going to about do it for this video tonight, guys. I want to go in and get the video edited, get it uploaded. I want to thank everybody for subscribing. We just hit 176,000, I think, this week. And I really appreciate everybody's love and support. And thank you for liking, sharing, commenting, and leaving nice comments. Appreciate y'all.